The following content is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial as reported by Inner City Press. No edits, no filters, just the raw truth, straight from inside the courtroom. Chapter 1. I didn't know what I was getting into. Posted by YouThrowRA_Jane Testimony. I'm not proud of this, but I need to say it. My name isn't really Jane. That's what the court calls me, the media too. But I'm a real person, with a real child, real scars, and a story I never thought I'd survive to tell. It started in late 2020, during what was supposed to be a carefree girls' trip to Miami. One of my closest friends, let's call her Sasha, was casually seeing Diddy. Yes, that Diddy, the mogul, the empire, the man who everyone either wanted to be or be with. Back then, Diddy was charismatic, smooth, and way more attentive than I expected. We met on his yacht, of all places. We literally bumped into each other near the bathroom. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Hey, take down my number, and let me get yours." That night we joked about nicknames. He started calling me Bert, and himself Ernie. It sounds ridiculous now, but at the time it felt personal, intimate, like some silly code only we shared. I was flattered. By January 2021, I was back in Miami. I let Diddy know. He invited me to dinner on the balcony of my hotel room. We drank, laughed, kissed, and that dinner turned into 5 straight days together. It wasn't just being physical. It was long walks, pillow talk, room service, him rubbing my feet. I thought, this is it. This man could really love me. I fell hard for Diddy. A month later, we were in the Bahamas, then Turks and Caicos. The chemistry was overwhelming. We used party pills together for the first time. I didn't want to, but Diddy said, "It's safe. It's the best." I ended up collapsed on the sand, laughing uncontrollably, throwing it in the air like a child. His assistant, Christina K.K. Koraram, and the butler had to put me in a cold shower to calm me down. I should have taken that as a warning. Instead, I took it as part of the adventure. Looking back, everything Diddy did in those early days was a setup. Love bombing, gifts, manipulation. He bought me a diamond-studded LOV bracelet, sent me $10,000 after one of our trips, said it was for all the time I missed from influencing. I felt seen, wanted, like I belonged in Diddy's world. Then came what he called our hotel nights. It was May 2021. I'll never forget it. The room was bathed in red lights. A ridiculous amount of baby oil covered every surface. Diddy told me to wear high heels and lace intimate wear. I was under the influence. He said we were doing something new, something exciting. And then he brought in another man, a male companion. He said his name was Don. He said he was from Cowboys and Angels. I wanted to believe it was a one-time thing. I was wrong. That night opened a Pandora's box, and I became the box. Chapter 2. Hotel Nights, Freakouts, and Control. Posted by YouThrowRA Testimony. After the first hotel night, I told myself it was an experiment. A wild, impulsive moment that we'd never revisit. But Diddy had other plans. He never asked if I was okay with what happened. He just started planning the next one. By the time June 2021 rolled around, hotel nights weren't just a kink, they were part of my job description. Each time the setup became more elaborate. High-end hotels, carefully chosen lighting, ridiculous amounts of baby oil. Diddy flew me from California to Miami, then to Atlanta, even New York, just for these nights. And always party pills, a haze, a blur, a mask. Each night meant red lights, high heels, delicate outfits, and strangers. Men flown in from agencies or adult content platforms. Sometimes there was one, sometimes two, and well, I was supposed to deliver. I began to suffer physically. Back pain, shoulder pain, recurring infections, the kind no amount of antibiotics could fix. But Diddy didn't care. When I brought it up, he said, "You used to be fun." Fun. That's what I was supposed to be. Diddy's personal form of release, on demand. Once, in November 2021, I saw him working out at his home gym with another woman. I lost it. I snapped over the phone, cursed him out, and that night, he sent me a voice note. I still remember his exact words. "You got one more time to flip out on me. I've been honest. I'm single. I can do what I want. You're acting crazy." The gaslighting was endless. I knew he wasn't exclusive. He told me that from the beginning. But what I didn't expect was how quickly I'd go from partner to background noise. Later that month, Diddy asked for something more extreme. He wanted what he called an all-star night, his fantasy where I'd be with multiple men at once, chosen by him. I told him I was on my period. I was tired. I even sent him proof, hoping he'd understand. Instead, he accused me of lying. "You always use your period as an excuse. You're messing up the schedule." That was his word, schedule. He didn't care if I was in pain, didn't care if I was exhausted. If I didn't cooperate, I was whack, slipping, or replaceable. And yet, when I pulled away, he always pulled me back. With guilt, with silence, and most of all, with money. He once texted, "I've been on my job, now you get on yours." As if this was some kind of contract. As if giving me rent money meant I owed him my body, my time, my silence. By that point, I had started using my phone's notes app as a diary. Chapter 3. He called it love, but it was labor. Posted by u/throw-ra Jane Testimony. By early 2022, I had stopped pretending. I wasn't in love. I wasn't in a relationship. I was caught in a cycle of emotional blackmail that looked like romance from the outside, but felt like survival on the inside. Hotel nights were no longer rare. They were structured, repetitive. Sometimes there were contracts and NDAs involved, things Diddy's people made me sign without explanation. I became a regular performer for Diddy's entertainment. There were schedules, hand-picked men, outfits laid out ahead of time, rooms scented the way he liked, music playing low in the background while I prepared myself, emotionally, physically, mentally, for another night I wouldn't remember clearly. I started getting sick, infections, cramping, nerve pain. One day I couldn't even walk without discomfort. My doctor looked at me with concern and asked if I'd been under unusual physical stress. I lied. I said I had a new workout routine. I couldn't tell her the truth, that I had been forced into repeated physical relationships with multiple strangers while under the influence, for the benefit of someone who said he cared about me. When I tried to say no, Diddy would act like I owed him. "You think I'm doing all this for free? Get on your job." That line haunted me. It wasn't even a request. It was a command. A constant reminder that in his world, I was his property. Not a partner. Not a human being with limits. One time on my birthday of all nights, he asked for a hotel night. He said he had something fun planned. I stupidly thought it was something special for the two of us. Instead, 3 men, back to back, all arranged by Diddy. I threw up in the bathroom afterward, curled up in a towel on the tile, sobbing quietly, holding my stomach. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Diddy didn't check on me. He didn't text. He didn't even ask how it went. The next day, a deposit hit my account. $5,000, labeled appreciation. I stared at the screen and felt nothing. He kept sending $10,000 a month to cover my rent, like it was a subscription fee to own me. People online ask, "Why didn't you leave?" Because when someone owns your past, your finances, your silence, and your pain, leaving doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like free fall. And every time I tried to regain power, Diddy flipped the script. One night, he asked me to send bad girl texts while he was with another woman. I refused. He exploded. You're boring now. You don't know how to play your part. That's all I was to him. A part, a role, a temporary fixture in his elaborate world. I still kept notes in my phone. In one entry from 2022, I wrote, "I've been on my job for 2 years. You just got on yours. I'm not your possession. I'm not a machine." But I did. Chapter 4. Diddy wanted control, not consent. Posted by You Throw R.A. Jane Testimony. By early 2023, I had stopped trying to rationalize what was happening. I no longer believed that Diddy cared for me. I didn't fool myself into thinking this was a relationship. It was a transaction, repeated over and over, where only one person held the terms. And it wasn't me. I started keeping a diary on my phone. Just simple notes entries. Things I didn't have the courage to say out loud. Things I couldn't text him because I knew he'd either ignore me or retaliate. One note from that winter said, "I don't want to take substances for days and let you use me to fulfill your extreme demands in hotel rooms. I feel hollow." I never sent it. Because when I said no to Diddy, he made sure I paid for it. He'd go silent for days, then send a cold message like, "Let's not do anything anymore. You're messing up the vibe. I'm done." But he never was. He always came back, with requests, with bookings, with disappointment masked as concern. And when I didn't respond, he'd send voice notes, almost always in that same tight, irritated tone. Never yelling, but worse, calculated, like a warning cloaked in a whisper. One voice note I saved said, "I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? This ain't a threat, but you're gonna get silence. You better get on your job." That phrase again. Get on your job. It was code. It meant cooperate, perform, obey. I'd heard it so many times it stopped sounding like a demand. It became muscle memory. When I told Diddy I was exhausted, when I said I needed rest, he dismissed it. When I said I was on my period, he said I was lying, again. He even accused me of pulling this stunt too many times. So I did what no woman should ever feel the need to do. I sent him a photo to prove it. Even then, he didn't believe me. He sent back, "You always got some excuse. I don't got time for games." Sometimes I'd respond, trying to defend myself, saying things like, "I've been on my job for 2.5 years. I've done everything you asked." And he'd flip it, turn it into an attack. "Don't throw your body in my face like it's a favor. You signed up for this." But I didn't. Not like this. Not when my body was breaking down. Not when I had to take medication every week for infections. Not when I'd sit in the tub for hours after these hotel nights, trying to feel clean again. Then there was the phone call I recorded. In that call, Diddy said, "You consented. You were with me. You knew what this was." His voice was controlled, rehearsed, as if he knew someone else might hear it one day. And maybe he did. Maybe he always knew this would come back to haunt him, so he created his own version of the story, one where I was a willing participant in every twisted thing he demanded. But how do you explain who's there for me when I close my eyes and I have these messed up images stuck in my head? He had no answer, just silence. That's when I realized silence was his real weapon. Not yelling, not threats, just that cold, eerie absence until I came crawling back. And every time I did, he reminded me, "You're lucky it's me." But I wasn't lucky. I was trapped. Chapter 5. I wasn't his partner. I was his property. Posted by You Throw R.A. Jane Testimony. By mid-2023, I had stopped feeling anything at all. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just numb. That's what happens when you've been treated like a possession instead of a person for too long. Every time I pulled away, Diddy found a new way to reel me back in. If it wasn't guilt, it was silence. If it wasn't silence, it was money. And if all else failed, he'd remind me of everything he'd done for me. "You think I'm paying you for nothing? You owe me?" That line hit harder than any scream. Because by then, Diddy wasn't just a man in my life. He was the one writing the script I had to follow. He began requesting more elaborate hotel nights. He'd call them classic sessions or reset nights. It was always the same setup: red lighting, heels, and the presence of multiple men he handpicked. One night he called it an all-star night. He said, "Let's bring back the top 3 guys." I told him I wasn't feeling well. My period had started early and I was exhausted. I even sent him another photo, humiliating, desperate proof that I wasn't lying. His reply? "Again? You always say that. You playing me now." I didn't respond, but he did. A voice message landed the next day. "You better get on your job. I'm not here to be played with. If this is how you're gonna act, I'll find someone who understands the assignment." That word again, assignment. Like I was a project, a mission, not a woman with limits. By then, the medical issues had worsened. I had back pain from hours of being positioned a certain way, infections that wouldn't go away, even hormonal imbalances. My doctor wanted to run further tests. But how do you tell your doctor that your body is shutting down because of routine physical encounters arranged by someone else? How do you explain the shame? One day I looked in the mirror and saw someone I didn't recognize. My face was dull, my posture tired, my eyes hollow. I started skipping meals, started isolating myself. My social media content, what I used to love, became a chore. And Diddy noticed. He messaged me, "Your energy's off, you don't turn me on anymore. Get back to the girl I picked." That word, picked, cut deeper than anything else. Because that's all I ever was to him, a choice, a purchase, a luxury he could afford. Diddy arranged a hotel night with 3 different men. He said it would be memorable, and it was, but not for the reasons he wanted. That night I went home physically sick. I vomited for hours. My body rejected what my mind tried to normalize. He never asked how I was. Instead, I got a payment the next day labeled appreciation. It felt more like compensation for the parts of me that kept breaking. And yes, I still received $10,000 a month for my rent. People call it support. To me, it was a leash. Because Diddy didn't just buy my silence. He bought my shame. Chapter 6. The courtroom called me Jane, but I took my name back. Posted by You Throw RA, Jane Testimony. When the subpoenas came, I froze. I wasn't afraid of testifying. I was afraid of Diddy, not of what he'd say, but of how easily he could vanish, shut doors, or press invisible buttons that made people disappear from the public eye. That's how powerful he made himself feel. But then I read Cassie's lawsuit, and I broke. Because in her words, I saw myself. The hotel nights, the manipulation, the pressure to take substances and perform, the erasure of our identity, one session at a time. I said yes to the prosecutors, but I had one request: let me be Jane. Not for my own safety, by then I didn't care about that. I asked for anonymity because I didn't want my child to Google my name one day and find trauma dressed in courtroom transcripts. So, I became Jane. But the moment I stepped into that federal courtroom, something changed. I saw Diddy, sitting still, scribbling notes, acting like I was just another problem he had to manage. And I spoke. I told the jury everything. The first yacht meeting, the love bombing, the trips, the outfits, the red lights, the substances, the men, the pain, the silence, the pressure, the aftermath. I said his name, Diddy, again and again. And every time I did, I peeled away one more layer of shame that had clung to me for years. People say crying in court makes you look weak. But my tears weren't weakness. They were release. Each sob was a memory being let go. Each pause in my voice was a scar resurfacing. The jury listened. I could feel it. Some leaned in. Some looked away when I spoke about infections and nausea and hotel doors closing behind me. But they heard me, really heard me. And for the first time in years, I felt like someone who mattered. Diddy didn't flinch. He sat there, sometimes removing his glasses, sometimes whispering to his lawyers, but never once did he acknowledge me with empathy. Never once did he show anything that looked like remorse. He had built this empire on control, but in that moment, he couldn't control me. After I stepped down, I sat alone in the hallway and stared at the floor. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt quiet. A system that teaches young women that love looks like control, that gifts mean devotion, that silence equals strength, that saying yes is expected and saying no is punished. But I said no, and I meant it. They may call me Jane in court records, but outside that building, I've reclaimed my name and my voice. And for the girls after me, I want them to know you are not property. You are not a contract. You are not someone's job to manage. You are not alone.